Hi everybody, I'm the Feelinist, Kat Harmon, host of the Third Eye Lexicon, here to give you a little recap of Episode 3, Which Way to the Solar Plexus. Tonight was a little drier topic than last week. Everybody seemed to be a little bit creeped out by our cannibalism episode, so I wanted to do something a little bit more lighthearted. Tonight's episode was about different ways that our bodies can function as maps to the rest of ourselves as complete beings. I talked about 3 different ways that we can read the body: iridology, reflexology, and palmistry. A couple of pretty known concepts, and the iridology not so known. And then I tried to kind of link those together and how I feel that they are related, and a little bit about the spiritual genome. So I'm going to start out with a recap on the iridology. Iridology, or iridodiagnosis, is the study of the iris of the eye in order to diagnose problems throughout the body. The right eye corresponds to the right side of the body, and the left eye corresponds to the left side of the body, and so on. An iridologist can look for color changes and imperfections in the iris in order to make a judgment on the client's health. Now, of course, the iris is the muscular portion of your eye. It's the colored portion of your eye surrounding the black pupil. And what they look for are any kind of changes that aren't natural. If you have green eyes that naturally have a little bit of blue, they're not looking for blue colorations, they're looking for something different. Now, although the idea of iridology has been noted in texts as old as 1665, the actual term itself was first coined by Dr. Ignaz von Petzli in the 19th century. He was a Hungarian doctor who happened to have a patient with a broken leg, and he noticed that that patient in particular had a very distinct black mark in one of his eyes on the iris. And it just made him think about a particular experience he'd had working on an owl, and the owl had a broken leg and also had the same black mark in his eye. This got him to thinking that perhaps there was some kind of correlation, and he started doing a lot of research on it and really studying the irises of patients he had in the hospital. And iridologists have done this for years after that. They use eye maps or iris charts in order to examine your eye for any marks that may signal a problem elsewhere in the body. Now, of course, the question arises, why would our eyes show these things anyway, and how do they change color, and why do they change color over the course of our lives? Well, babies are born with blue or really dark, almost black eyes, not green or fiery orange, for example. And this, according to iridologists, is because the way the body's chemistry is always changing, especially as we grow. This reflects in the iris color changes. The babies are kind of like a clean slate. They haven't been molded and everything by the environment and the biochemistry yet, and so as we get older, we kind of settle into those states of health and whatnot that reflect in our iris. Now, if you're looking at a picture of your iris or a picture of someone's iris and you're wondering what to look for, some of the things that they look for are coloration differences, like I said, that are unnatural. Things that they might look for would be black spots or marks. These would indicate necrotic or dying tissue somewhere throughout the body. Usually it's an indicator of an organ or a tissue that has been wounded in the past and is now scarred or has scar tissue. They may also look for white marks or white hazes. These can be indicators of inflammation. Perhaps, in a lymph node and stomach. If you're having a bacterial infection, you're fighting something off, it may show up like that. They can look for rings and arcs, which of course are semi-rings. They can be small independent rings, which they call contraction rings, or they can also be outside to the edge of the iris, which can indicate other things. Rings can represent a number of different things. Usually, iridologists suggest that it relates to either spasms or nervous or muscular problems. Rings around the outside of the iris, especially if they're kind of hazy brown, can tend to represent high cholesterol or arterial disease because their arterial wall is breaking down. Other rings can also represent, like I said, spasms or nervous problems. Unnatural variations of orange can mean that there's a chromium deficiency in the body. and green can be a red flag for kidney disease. Brown is typically associated with liver problems, so if you have a brown lesion or a brown spot where it's not supposed to be, that can be an indicator of liver trauma. And if you have like a shadowy haze, especially if it's lighter in color, that can be an indicator of pH imbalance. And then the final thing, just of some basic things that they look for, are actual lesions, which are, in reality, they're pits on the muscle of the iris, and they look kind of like oval leaves in the eye that are just a shade darker than the rest of the eye. These are indications of weakness, and sometimes lesions are tumors. You know, there are many skeptics out there who can call iridology a fake science, a hoax, a scam, things like that. But the real truth is that iridology is taught at many, you know, prestigious medical institutions and has been around for quite a long time, and there's still a lot of belief that it can collaborate with health problems and help you know, natural health practitioners to guide someone to treatment or preventative care that may be beneficial to them. I'm going to post a link here for a wonderful little YouTube video by Dr. Reed that is a wonderful way to find out if you're interested in iridology. And here is an example of an iridology iris eye chart and how they map the body according to the eyes. Okay, that's just one way that our body, in the form of our eye, can act as a blueprint or a map to the rest of our bodies. The other pretty commonly known reflexology, also known as zone therapy or zone therapy massage, has its origins in ancient times. Just like iridology, it uses one part of the body to illustrate what's going on in the rest of the body. With reflexology, the hands and feet are the areas which we find our maps to our health. And unlike iridology, a reflexologist will actually try to alleviate the affected area by applying treatment such as massage or acupuncture to the corresponding area on the feet or the hands. Many practitioners utilize the theory of chi flow to illustrate how these points of reference on the feet and the hands are effective. Basically, the chi flow is an energy that flows throughout the body in its natural state, and when there's a health concern, there's a blockage in this energy flow, and applying therapeutic techniques to those reflexology points where there are blockages helps to open up these channels and restore the person to optimum health. Of course, many different cultures have long-standing histories of practicing one form or another of reflexology. We tend to, in the U.S., kind of get an idea that reflexology is this more of an Eastern mysticism type of school of thought, and really we think of China and Japan as perhaps being the most well known for reflexology, but actually it can be found in the history of Asian cultures, European cultures, and even Native American cultures. Of course, the main difference between iridology and reflexology is that the healer is feeling for abnormalities and not necessarily looking for them, although in some cases if you've got an area that's of high enough concern, you can actually see it. This would be true of, knotted muscles or calluses or bruising, those types of things that you can actually see with the naked eye. But I'm going to put up a little reflexology chart here. Here's some feet. And here's a chart using the hands. Notice that each of these can be used to map out the whole body, and reflexologists use this as a map to the health of the rest of our body. Okay, I'm going to move on to a little subject that's just a little bit different, because now we're moving from using the body's maps to help just the body's health to using the body's maps to also look into other things. And we're going to talk about palmistry. Palmistry is an ancient art. It involves reading the physical makeup of someone's hand in order to gather information about not only their health, which is absolutely possible with palm reading, but also about their spirit, their events and feelings in their life, both present, past, and future. It's the one use of the body map that gives some insight into the non-physical realm of that person getting the reading. And palm reading, of course, is one of the oldest forms of fortune telling. It conjures up images of gypsies in tents, old crones reading your fortune and that kind of thing. It definitely has a certain stigma about it. But actually it is a very highly complex system of markers which indicate certain points of interest on the palm. And knowing these markers is actually just the beginning of a good palm reading. It takes an expert palmist to be able to interpret all these markers correctly and efficiently. But really, even any person on the street could learn just a few basic tricks and learn to get a general idea of what your palm has to say as far as being used as a map. And using our hands as maps, there are just a few things that we start with. First of all, when you're starting to do a palm reading, whether you're getting it or giving it, the first question is, which hand do we read? Now, there are a lot of debates about this. Some people believe that you should always read the left hand with a woman and the right hand with a man, or that whether the person is left-handed or right-handed makes a difference. Other people believe that depending on their profession or what type of reading, you should read different hands. I am actually of the school of thought that you should always read the right hand, and this is because, and just as I was taught, the left hand represents your potential, the things you were born with, the path that you could take, and the right hand represents what is, the actual physical facts, what happened, what's going on. And so in my experience, I always read the right hand of a person. And there are some very rare exceptions. If you have a person that's very disconnected from the world, or they're very lost about who they are, they're up in the clouds all the time to an extreme, on those people I would read the left hand, because that potential, that map of what they should be, what they could be, is a good guide to help get them back on their feet.